Hey guys, just wanted to take a moment to thank you for listening to SiDEBAR Forever. If you like the show, please subscribe to us at sidebarforever.com, as well as share episodes of the podcast on your social media. That way, new listeners can find us as well. The unlikely duo of Sam Wilson and Bucky Barnes are back, only this time as The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, streaming right now on Disney+. The Marvel Studios series made its dynamic debut on March 19th, 2021 and took off, no pun intended. Plenty of action, plenty of buddy cop chemistry between Anthony Mackie and Sebastian Stan, and lots of new characters who weren't introduced in the films, such as Karli Morganthau and the Flag Smashers, Isaiah Bradley, and John Walker as, the new Captain America? But a few familiar faces from the MCU proper do show up in the series, like former S.H.I.E.L.D. agent Sharon Carter, from Black Panther, the Dora Milajie's Ayo, and the nefarious Baron Zemo. We unpack all 6 episodes, including the series finale, which dropped on this past Friday as of this recording. I'm Agent Johnson. Dwight and Swain are by my side as we wield Cap's shield proudly while discussing Season 1 of Marvel Studios' The Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
So The Falcon and the Winter Soldier debuted in March, and Season 1 wrapped up on April 23rd. We pick up the show after everyone comes back from the blip. While they were gone, country borders became much more lax than they were prior. People were allowed to kind of come and go freely. Everyone on the planet is basically working together in a unified way, like they never really have before. There's no homelessness, because there are twice as many dwellings and apartments and flats and whatnot as there are people to actually occupy them. But once half the population returns, every country is faced with massive refugee problems. There are people who are living and squatting on land and in homes and apartments and whatnot that they don't really own. Mm-hmm. And so they end up forming the GRC, the Global Repatriation Council, as a way to kind of sort all of that out. And their motto is, yeah, exactly, really. And their motto is reset, rebuild, restore. So over the course of the 6 episodes of the season, we see Sam and Bucky living different lives. Bucky has been pardoned for his past crimes. Sam gives the shield back to the government and decides to go back home to Delacroix, Louisiana, where his family lives. Mm-hmm. We're introduced to Karli and the Flag Smashers, and they're a terrorist group that kind of rises out of the chaotic refugee turmoil.
They're freedom fighters.
We're introduced to freedom fighters. There we go. We are introduced to a new Captain America in the form of John Walker.
Yeah.
We find out more that we find out Popeye. We find out that there are more super soldiers out there, most especially Isaiah Bradley, a.k.a. The Truth.
Yes.
They break Zemo out of prison for an international road trip. Former S.H.I.E.L.D. agent Sharon Carter jumps into the fray. Walker ends up taking a life in a very gruesome public, it wasn't even a decapitation. It was like you cut the guy in half with the shield, just like, there's a big showdown with Karli at the GRC summit. And then finally, Sam Wilson officially takes on the mantle and becomes, the new Captain America. But so what did you guys think, man? What are your thoughts?
Well, all right. The initial thought I had, man, and y'all have heard me harp this several times during this series, man. Mm-hmm. Damn, this show costs a lot of money, and every penny of it is on the screen. Yeah. Good Lord. Oh my goodness. Like every week was a mini movie. It's almost like you were coming from the theater to your house and you just pick it back up. It's like a 6-hour movie just split up. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Beautiful. You know what I'm saying? And the other thing too is it's just the how they're bringing those characters up to the forefront, like Sam and Bucky. It was good to see their characterizations get deepened and broadened. You know what I'm saying? Very, very satisfying. In particular, Sam's. You know, I mean, both really, but in particular, Sam's. You know what I'm saying? And he was so relatable, you know, on so many levels. Like, it just felt very satisfying to see that, you know. I got my fanboy willies out when they introduced John Walker. Because I was like, oh, shoot, John Walker? Really? Because I love that Mark Grunwald story drawn by Kieran Dwyer. It goes from 332 to 350. You know what I'm saying? And it's I love that. I always have, man. Yeah, man. So I was satisfied with it. I'm sure when we discuss later on some of the other things, there are some things I was kind of sucking my teeth on, like in particular the resolution of the whole Flag Smasher Karli thing, and the John Walker thing. But we'll get to it, man. But what did you think, D?
I loved it, man. I found a couple of, thread and plot holes here and there that it didn't shake me out of the moment, but it was enough to say, okay, this is not really. You could tell that it was supposed to be like a 9-episode series, and they cut things a little short and compressed a few things to make it fit into 6, based on the time schedule where it came about in today's New World Order, as far as dealing with current COVID crisis and things like that, and quarantines. So it felt a little abrupt in certain points, but the way they strung it all together was really very satisfying. I knowing that the Flag Smasher was one person in the comics and it was a movement inside of the movies was a little weird to me, but I still enjoyed it because the way they did it made more sense in terms of what transpired inside of Marvel Studios. And seeing how it was a thing wherein it was a repatriation type let me try it again. An anti-repatriation group. Here we go.
Yes.
Right.
And it felt right to me based on that. And there were no surprises really for me at all. I knew everybody was going to come out the way they did. I mean, I even knew Karli was going to die in the end, because that was the way that they have been playing it from the beginning. Because even actually states that several times.
Sure.
And they're playing it like she's a terrorist. But there were a couple of things which I found very satisfying in it. And the first and foremost one was like you said, was Sam Wilson's, like, the girth of his character was fully explored here. You got a chance to see him be that intelligent counselor person. He was talking Karli down off the ledge, and here comes John Walker. Oh, you're under arrest. Come on, man. This guy's a trained hostage negotiator. Right. This guy knows exactly what he's doing. He was a war vet. He was a war vet, a counselor. We went into the gig with Steve and let him do his job. If you don't trust him, I mean, at least like mic him or something, or don't you have like some kind of glorified extra microphone that you can project into the area? You're Captain America, right? You're back, right? So I mean, I and as the other performances in there, I like Bucky. I still felt he was a little bit hollow, even though there was things he was dealing with and some flashbacks that helped him along the way with the characterization. I think I like Sebastian Stan's portrayal of him a lot better than I did in the I think probably the second series where you were shown. And I like the idea of the Wakandan sticking in there and then giving the new Falcon costume a world, their take on it. I'm still not satisfied with the fact that why would they not give him vibranium lace clothing, because it makes sense that that's you guys that's your purvey, that's when you purvey, and says that's what you do, it's like what you sell. But apparently they want to be able to have access to be able to take him down if they need to represent America or whatever. I don't know what the politics are, but
well, his wings are vibranium. So remember when he covers himself
Okay.
in the helicopter, and it crashes, and it doesn't, it doesn't kill him, and I forget who he was covering with, but yeah.
Okay,
So his
that makes
wings
sense,
now are vibranium.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
The rest of these be like exemplary too. Maybe it is. They didn't have a chance to exhibit that.
Sure.
So yeah, I like some of the cameos they had in there. I was not surprised at all by Sharon Carter's flip in the end, because they never introduced the actual power broker in any of the episodes. So it had to be somebody already shown as a rule of how you do cinema, do storytelling. So it's kind of that thing. But yeah, what do you think, Squiz?
I enjoyed it, man. I really, really enjoyed it. Like yourself, I thought that there were definitely a few story moments and a few kind of plot moments where I was like, okay, what? When they're at the GRC summit and Karli sees, Sam fly over and she says, he's here. Okay, well, suppose you didn't see him fly over.
Right.
Is everything hinging upon making sure that you can look at all points in the sky and know when he's going to arrive? I mean,
Yeah.
But I thought the cast was superb. I thought everyone showed up, and I thought everyone brought something. Even some of the people who didn't have much to do, even the sister who was giving John Walker side eye after her brother was killed. Like she gave him that little sister side eye, like motherfucker. But I thought the cast was really superb. I thought that they gave everybody a good amount to do. I thought that the connections and the relationships felt believable.
Yeah.
I believed John Walker was friends with Lamar.
Yeah.
Like I felt them.
Being Battlestar.
I felt his relationship. Battlestar, yeah. I felt Walker's relationship with his wife, even though they didn't have a lot of moments together, but I felt like they kind of did have a history together. He might just be that white boy who fucked with black people in high school, and that's how it happened,
he was from Georgia, so it's not out the realm of possibility.
Backstory?
Yeah, and that's the same thing in the comics. That's what got my fanboy Eichels up even more. I was like, oh shit, they used his real hometown for the comics. Oh, snaps.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. But I thought those were real. I absolutely adored the interactions with Sam and his sister, the actor who played his sister Sarah, and his nephews, and how they interspersed in like old, Kodak photos of when they were kids and birthday parties, and him standing in the yard in his first suit was all oversized, and and him talking about, him when he was calling the neighbors, he was like, yeah, this is Paul's, his youngest son from down the street. Just all of that. I thought all of that was really great. Like Adrian said, probably episode 2 was maybe the sequence when they're fighting on top of the 18-wheelers was probably the weakest to me.
Agreed.
But the first episode with the fight with Batroc and the helicopters, that was fantastic. That was sensational. And even, some of the stuff later on, I think my favorite episode was probably episode 5.
The Truth.
Which was entitled Truth, yeah. That was my favorite episode of all of them. But the fact that Isaiah Bradley shows up, the fact that they flesh out, like you all said, that, we get a sense, less of a sense of Bucky. He did ring a little bit hollow for me too, D. I felt like, okay, I still don't quite kind of care, but maybe they're not giving me enough to care.
Right, of course.
Like he doesn't have, like he's not even finding like, some auntie or some, some distant family member. He's not even trying to track any of those people down.
Yeah.
And maybe that's, maybe that's to come. But, the idea of fleshing out, Sam, as a black man living in America, and some of the thing, he's telling his sister, I know how to do this thing for these white folks out here, stuff that people say, when they're amongst their family, stuff that black people say when they're amongst their family and their close friends. And them going to the scene where they go to the bank to get the loan, just all of that was just great. And then when he has that sit down with Isaiah in episode 5, and he says, they tried to erase me. He goes and busts his men out, and he gets imprisoned. Steve goes and busts his men out against the rules,
he gets
against
the medal.
his his orders from his superiors, and he's a hero.
Yeah.
And all of that was just like, it was just gut punch after gut punch after gut punch. But overall, I really dug it. I thought it worked. I thought most of the things they tried to do, I thought worked. I think Aaron Kellyman, the actor who plays Karli Morganthau,
fantastic.
I thought she was great, man. I thought she was really great. And she looked like that mixed Euro street kid, smart, but, going down the wrong path. She gave you all of those vibes.
Wait, where are you exactly?
To me.
Are you Irish? Are you
very
black?
Like,
are you
what
are you English? Are you very nice gesture.
One people, one world.
I like that.
Exactly.
And that was something else too that I was telling you guys. I was telling my wife this too after rewatching the series. Like I was trying to what is she fighting for? What is she trying to get? And that's when I realized that's what it was. While everybody was gone in the blip, if let's say there's a chain of 10 people to perform a task or to create a good or a service. Well, now there are only 5 people. So everybody has to work together. All the borders got, more relaxed and, people, it's like, in other words, it's just, let's just try to survive with what we have left. And so it really was a one world community. And then when everybody came back, it was like, okay, no, refugee camps. Essentially like, huddling them into like ghettos together, booting them out, you don't belong in this country anymore. Wait a minute, I helped build this country for the last 5 years before everybody came back. Now I just got to go. You know what I mean? So you kind of, watching it a second time, I got more of a sense of what her activism and what her mission was. Now, she was still wrong-headed, don't get me wrong. I see you giving
very much, yes.
But yeah, I like that too, and I think Karli Morganthau, I think it was a male character in the comics, and they made it a female character for the TV show, if I'm not mistaken.
Right.
Like Dee was saying with the Flag Smashers, it was one Flag Smasher in the comics, but making it a movement and whatnot, I thought was a brilliant move. But do you guys have any favorite scenes, man, or favorite set pieces from the show?
Too many, man. Let me start episode 1. Okay, Sam's flying to the mountain range. Okay, and the Falcon's flying to the mountain range, and he's standing far away enough distance to where they don't see him initially, right? And then all of a sudden he just then like a true Falcon, a true bird of prey. He picks his point of entry and just knocks you out the other side of the helicopter, and it picks the guy off. Like, that's exactly what a bird of prey would have done.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah, yo.
His facility with his weapon, man, is absolutely uncanny, man. I mean, to be a natural born human and not have any superpowers whatsoever, to have the level of depth and sophistication he has with that thing, it's just like, I don't see how anybody else could do like him, as far as like that the new guy's going to take his place. Talk about it later on, but
I guess we have to really give credit to the Russo brothers, because Sam was introduced in Captain America Winter Soldier. And it's like, even in the comics, Sam was never like the most formidable superhero ever. But they have absolutely, like, with, modernizing him, they have made him really like he does some shit.
Yeah.
He uses his jetpack and his wings. He uses all of that stuff as a weapon, and he's become a great fighter. So, I mean, it's just so cool how they made what could have been lame, like with Hawkeye and even with Black Widow and with Sam, but they're ass kickers in their own rights. The way they've been portrayed in the film.
No, you're right. You did right, man. So that was my first scene. The next one would be, I like the train initially. Even though I wasn't sure who Karli was initially, how she just was. They thought she was a damsel in distress, and they get there, and she basically kicks him out of the back of the truck. I wasn't too cool with Cap. I mean, not Cap, but we'll call him Cap. Coming in there and trying to bust up and pose like he was going to be there to help out, and I'm going to recruit. I like the relationship you had together with Rogers. I need a wingman. I need a number two, whatever the case is. See right there, you said the wrong thing. The wrong thing. You already want to put me as a sidekick. We were a partner. It wasn't about being a sidekick. I was a partner. Maybe you treat your boy like that. But
oh my goodness!
Like that. But another thing I found weird, and we'll get back to I'll skip and let you guys go to your favorite scenes next. But one of the things I found strange and bizarre about the whole idea of what it took to be Captain America was any great soldier that could wield a shield, the way Cap did, who has some bit of military prowess, could be Captain America without the super soldier serum, which is ignorant at best and woefully stupid at worst. I mean, how could you think you put a normal man in a suit and go up against a super soldier person and survive? That was the first mistake of putting Lamar out there in the battlefield. To be beat up battle axe. What happened? It was ridiculous, man. What do you think was going to happen? You're going after superpowered people, and you don't have superpowers. You can get beat the fuck up.
Yeah.
Well, but keep in mind, Bucky back in the day didn't have superpowers. He was hanging with Toro and Namor
but
but he wasn't taking like direct punches from Master Man or nothing. Master Man wasn't jacking him up. Oof. Warrior Woman, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
No.
Right. But you get straight up a comic book, no, man. Yeah, man.
Indeed.
Well, I wanted to interject. A couple of my favorite scenes, man. My inner fanboy jumped out when they were talking about we're going to Madripoor.
Yes,
I was like, oh
yes,
shit! Oh hell yeah! Let's go to Madripour. Hell yeah! Exactly.
That's it.
Where Patch at? Where Logan at with the eye patch on?
Yeah.
Oh shit! Oh hell yeah! What Tiger at? Oh hell yeah! And they played Madripoor exactly how I've always seen it in my head when I've read it in Uncanny X-Men. It's a cross between Detroit, Mogadishu, Tokyo, and Hong Kong. Like, it should feel dangerous. Don't turn your back, and you can get whatever you want there. And they played it perfectly. That's Madripoor. I was like, hell yeah, they did that right.
Yeah.
Another thing, I think within that same episode or the following episode is when you see Zemo, when they break Zemo out, who was a great addition to the cast for the time he was in. He was perfect.
Yeah, man.
He was fantastic. When they break him out and he starts going back to his old haunt, you know what I'm saying, where he got all of his luxuries at, the cars and stuff. He is getting back in tune with that fine life that eluded him while he was locked up. And you see him go to that old-fashioned sedan, right? And on that seat, they had that Zemo mask. I was like, oh.
The purple Scully. The purple Scully, yo.
Oh, shit. It would have been like, if he had had some adhesive X on it, I would have been like, oh, yeah, yo, y'all. Ooh. And then when he put,
I was just going to say real quick, I thought it was so dumb, though, was like, when they were having the shootout at the ship container yard.
Yes.
And Zemo puts on his Scully and then blows some stuff up and then kicks a few people's ass and then takes the Scully off and gets in the car. I'm like, what was the Scully for?
Yeah, but that was for us.
Exactly.
That was for us.
Exactly.
Apparently.
Yes, that was for us, dog.
That was for the fans, yeah.
But
Go ahead, man.
Yeah, man. So I mean that part, and the last episode, man, like that nearly the entire episode was a set piece all of its own. Like, oh, so incredible. I remember watching it and my mouth was open. I caught myself watching it with my mouth open because of the choreography of the battle, and it felt like it was expansive too. Like, different things were going on. So Bucky was over here trying to handle this part, but you might see Sam fly overhead like, hey, what's going on down there? I got it under control. All right, well, I'm going after Karli. You see them kind of working together, and, it's like, it really summed it up very well as far as like what the cast was doing. You know what I mean? And just that whole battle was fantastic, man. It was really, really good, man.
You know what's interesting about what you just said, Adrian, in particular?
What's that?
Maybe this is a conscious thing on Sebastian Stan's part. Maybe it's part of the plot and whatever. But the Winter Soldier was definitely scaled down in this, where he didn't really want to be the Winter Soldier. He's constantly fighting that side of himself throughout this entire conversation. Right. So it wasn't like him having conversations with people on the phone to try and curtail the activity and stop Carter from doing things. And she used that as a ploy to get him to ignore the obvious happening around him as they were sneaking the GRC representatives out into the truck, right? But he was well outside of his wheelhouse, and she was playing him as if he had the same kind of anti-escalation ability as Sam would. All the time through the course of the conversation, it's almost like he's almost trying to be less reactive and more contemplative because of his dealing with his
I thought so too. I thought so too, D.
Because he could have been fucking some shit up the entire time if he really wanted to. If he really wanted to go in on people, he could have been like just totally reverted to himself and got busy. But so maybe that's something to do with it too.
Yeah. Those are all my favorite scenes as well, and I really appreciate it. Even though I appreciated the fact that they really tried to replicate, the Falcon's outfit from the comics to the show. Mm-hmm. And the what he wears in the comics is a very contemporary, cinema adjacent design. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like a lot of the designs today of all the comic book characters now, they're usually wearing like armor and Velcro. You can tell, it looks more military like, the designs tend to look more military like. Even Superman, at one point he's got the. So I thought that was great that they replicated it. I didn't think that the white on the head worked as much, like Adrian and I were talking about the other day, with his ears popping out. It's kind of like, okay, I love that when Carmine Infantino draws it on like Kid Flash where his ears pop out. But it does look a little strange here. But overall, I thought it worked and it came off well. And I like the fact that, it was Sam's sister, when they had that conversation, and she said, "You gonna let Isaiah Bradley get in your head and make you be what he wants you to be, or you gonna be who you want to be?"
Be who you are.
And and even the speech that he makes at the end, where he says, "I can feel your eyes on me now.
Right.
I can feel people looking at me and judging me now. What is he doing with the shield?
Right.
So he's almost like on some Jackie Robinson." Or some Hank Aaron type stuff where I've got to be the first, and I've got to wear the stars and stripes proudly, but also got to suffer the slings and arrows, from my detractors and from people who don't agree with who I am and what I'm doing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and to your point, Swizz, there was a piece of dialogue that after I thought about it, I was like, yeah, it made sense. Like at first, I was kind of taken aback when Isaiah and his grandson see Sam on TV, and his grandson is like, look, there goes Sam right there, and see him in the suit and everything, and Isaiah was like, oh, he's still black. I was like, now see, that kind of defeatist thing is what is pulling black folks down to me. But when I sat back and thought about it, I was like, of course it would come from someone who faced that virulent racism every single day, as opposed like the virulence that he faced. We probably, as black people, individually don't face that except maybe 2 or 3 times a year. Like, I mean, where it's like in your face, we have little microaggressions of it for sure. But whereas like back in the day, that was every single day, and that weighed down on him. And I thought him saying that expressed his feeling, because look at what Isaiah had gone through, not just as a super soldier, but just as a black man during that time in the 30s and the 40s. You know what I'm saying? So when I sat back and thought about it, I was like, yeah, that would be his worldview. I got you. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, and I didn't find a worldview that Sam was relating to either. I mean, I like the way he reacted to Isaiah Bradley to find out what his history was when the Winter Soldier first took him there. and surprised by the revelation that he was actually one of the first super soldiers to take one of the first really test super soldiers serum on. And he was appalled by the whole situation. He was like, "What? I knew about Tuskegee, but damn, it went this far." You know, it was almost his reaction.
I was gonna say, man, the part in the conversation that really was contemporary, and kind of what Adrian's getting to is you don't want to write an 80-year-old man as if he has 30 or 40-year-old sensibilities. He's just not.
Right.
It's just not going to happen. But when they were having the conversation, he says, you know, we got to get your story out here. I know people. Mm-hmm. And he said, and he told him, he said, see, you think it's my fault that I ended up where I ended up. You think it's my fault that I ended up in prison, that I ended up getting rejected because you think you can fix it now. Mm. You know what I'm saying? Mm. In other words, he's basically, Isaiah felt like he's telling him, you just didn't do it right. Mm-hmm. No, it has nothing to do with that. But yeah, like that was, yeah, I know what you're saying there about the, and I absolutely agree, man. It's, some of the things was like, they had me there for 30 years and took my blood, Mm-hmm. And the thing about it is too, I was wondering, like, the whole time I was watching, I was like, is his grandson gonna become Patriot in the Young Avengers? Is that what we're looking forward to?
I completely forgot about that. Hell yeah. Oh shit.
Yeah. I was like, are they gonna cast him in the Young Avengers?
Yeah, because think about it. That's one of the best things about Sam's soliloquy at the end was the fact that not only the fact that he said it, and like Adrian says so well eloquently, is featurified. But the fact that he did so from a manner, he did so from a person's point of view and worldview being subjugated. Let's be honest. Even in 2021, we're still in a situation where we're still fighting for our rights. We're fighting to be equal. We're still often looked at as, we're not looked at really, but treated in a manner which is unbecoming to other people's sensibilities. So it all rang true. And the fact when Sam stood up and made them listen. That's something that Captain America, that's something that Steve Rogers never would have done. I mean, Steve Rogers was good at speechifying to people which he really thought were evil, and working against him. He could do that, but for him to say something, for the exception of Civil War, and to finally stand up and say, "Look, I'm not going to sign this act because what you're doing now is you're neutering us and not disabling our ability to be international freedom fighters or whatever." I'm not going to sign this Sokovia peace accord, but. Sam stood up and said, "Look, the reason you think that she was first of all, take that stigma off out of
the labels of terrorists and giving people names,
which is very poignant, especially in the time that it was written because of last year we just got rid of a dictator, So a situation wherein it's like it makes sense that they would have that sense of duty to portray." A black man in that manner, and he could be Captain America because he is. I mean, essentially, no one's dodged more slings and arrows, as an ethnic group in the society than a black man. So it's like for him to take up the mantle of Captain America is good on him, and shows the kind of person he thinks that this society could be, and that's where he brought it, man. I was like, wow, he did that. Anthony Mackie. I was like, any other character. Any other person, and I can think of right now in terms of a black lead, could have done a degree of severity and true engagement than he did, because first off, he was really kind of a neophyte before. I mean, he did some stuff that was like, I guess you say B films, whatever the case may be, and some, he did a little Papa Doc and things, stuff like that. But he really hadn't had a chance to really fully. Get his feet into something like that. Now he's there, and he's finally he feels like Sam Wilson to me. Feels like the Falcon to me, and feels like Captain America. So it's kind of awesome.
Yeah, I agree.
I agree as well.
I was proud of it
as well. A couple of things I thought that were really interesting, and were really smart moves, and showed that the writers and the showrunner Malcolm Spellman. That they were really thinking, like there was a point where, like I like the fact that they played up that Karli is a millennial. So she's really good at galvanizing people behind an idea, even if it's a shallow one or if it's one that's wrong-headed. You know, remember when Torres, you know, came to Sam after they had the fight with Walker?
Oh, okay.
At the well, this is like in the 4th or 5th episode,
okay.
And Torres said, "What happened to your wings or whatever?" And Sam's like, he doesn't even want to talk about it.
Right.
And then he says, "Hey, look, man," he says, "Karli," he says, "man, she's got support all over the world on all platforms." He says she's really good at this, and it's almost like, you know, like a Kardashian or like someone else who is an influencer, a young, attractive, charismatic, energetic person. You know, and people want to follow them, you know, want to see what they're doing. Only, you know, she's leading this, you know, this very, like Sam said, I agree with what you want to do, but I just disagree with how you're doing it. But I like the fact that they played that up for her as a millennial. The other thing I thought was really cool too was, you know, Dr. Nagel tells him when he's in his lab, he says, you know, I isolated from the blood the super soldier portion, and he said, but mine was more focused, it was more acute, it was more specific. So people would take the serum and it would fuck them up, but it wouldn't beef up their bodies so they're all walking around like bodybuilders like it did Steve Rogers. He said he wanted his people, because again, Sharon, aka the power broker, she wanted an army of super soldiers to work for her in her underground, you know, her underground dealings. So you don't want everybody walking around looking intimidating. You want people who can blend in.
Subtle. Yeah, sure.
So that's why a girl who looks like she's just a 19-year-old kid can kick a grown man's ass. That's why, you know, skinny dudes are kicking people across the street.
Yeah.
You know, their bodies have that strength, but they, you know, they're not all bulked up. I thought that was kind of a cool adjustment. And it kind of goes back to like the Terminator thing where they were saying, you know, okay, casting Arnold in the Terminator. He was so big, it was like, okay, well, how is he supposed to infiltrate anything? Yeah. He's the first person you're going to think is going to kick somebody's ass.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, they have them like treadstone, man, like the Bourne I did in any type of situation. But these are sleeper cells. They could be anywhere, any point in time. You don't know exactly where they are, but they have the ability to function where they need to function to get the job done. So I appreciate that about it. But
that was another thing I noticed too. The scene where, you know, like they're leaving Madripoor and it's like, oh, everybody's looking at their phones. The Selby's been killed. There's a bounty. Get him. That was like straight out of John Wick. I know you guys probably haven't seen the John Wick movies. Yeah. But that's what happens in John Wick. Yeah. You seen it, D?
Yeah, the first one especially, yeah. Let's do the first one.
Remember, it was like, okay, John, you know, it's like people were looking at their phones. Oh, John Wick. It's a bounty on John Wick. All of a sudden, people in public are just, you know, like, damn, is everybody an assassin?
Trying to get that bread, Joe.
Yeah.
Keep these lights on. Damn.
But did I interrupt you, D? I'm sorry.
No, you're good.
I was going to say, speaking of Karli, though, I was kind of conflicted, you know, as far as her characterization. Like, I get the overall part of her being like being a freedom fighter of sorts, you know, trying to, you know, galvanize people to come together. But when she blows up that building with the people still in it, and that's the first of a couple of times where the other flag smashers that are with her are like, I don't know.
No, yo.
No, man, they don't even feel right. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
and then, you know, and they keep following her anyway. You know what I'm saying? And it culminates to where, okay, she gets shot, you know what I'm saying, by Sharon. And, you know, Sam picks her up and Karli's like, I'm sorry. I'm like,
now you're sorry. Yeah, exactly. Now you're sorry.
Don't let her off the hook. It's the exact same problem that I had with WandaVision. No, play that villainous stream out. Play it out. Okay?
Yep.
You're taking pity on her, and I know I'm gonna catch some flack for this, but it's all right. Had it been a male instead of a female, it probably would have handled it differently, in my opinion. You know what I'm saying? I think so.
Right.
It just didn't play right. It didn't have that finality to it, and it's almost like, okay, so Sam picks her up, and he's almost like this angel of mercy. He comes back down with exactly.
Look, it was like a Thomas Blackshear painting, yo.
Oh yeah. It's true. It's true. It's true. Yeah, man.
So I was just like, so I kind of rolled my eyes at that. I was like, okay. And it's almost like uses that as a fulcrum to roll into his speech, you know?
Right.
Well, I still just don't feel like, no. You can't just say, after you done caused all this international mayhem over 3 continents, you've killed people. You know what I'm saying? And now you want to say, I'm sorry. No.
Well, okay. So yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you. But here's the thing. I'm gonna give you an example of what happened inside. I think it was probably Civil War, wherein Daniel Bruhl's character Zemo was about to kill himself, and Black Panther says, "No more dying here today." And in that moment, what he did essentially was he realizes that death is too quick, and he realizes that what you're doing at that point is you're getting out of it too simply, right? If you're made to suffer and to constantly remember what you did and face instead of time for what you did, is a constant reminder why you're here. So I say it to say that when it comes to Karli and what she did, yes, some of the acts were heinous and unforgivable, no doubt. But at the same time, Ultron dropped the city on a group on a whole society, and thousands of people died. And the Avengers are still walking around. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, they're with the roles they played to beat a mad god Thanos to get people back to this plane of existence is undeniable. They actually their bad things outweigh their good things. But at the same time, it's almost like, okay, where do you draw the line as far as like judgment goes, as far as what you think is bad and what you think is good? And killing people is never good. Let's put that on the table right away. But it's a thing wherein, does the end justify the means sometimes? And are things which you're seeing right now in hindsight as being irredeemable, were they actually the right thing to do? And did they really set people upon a course in the path that made a difference? Now arguably there's a lot of things you slide in like those categories and say, hell no, Dwight, hell no, Dwight. But there are points in history which made a difference for all our lives that brought us to where we are here today. That gives us the ability to do the things we're doing now. It's just a strange chain of events, man. There's just no, there are definite rights and definite wrongs, right? But the path to those things is not linear, and to point up a linear judgment on something based on what your point in perspective is, if your point in perspective is at that time, it's just not totally wise. That's something you fully that's something I can fully personally embrace based on what I've seen reflecting upon our path.
I see what you're saying, D. But I also think about like extremist groups, in the real world that say the same things. Like when they do like perpetuate a bombing campaign or something like that, and they stand up and take responsibility for it. Yeah, we did it because we want this. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Yes, we did it because we want this to happen. Mm-hmm. And it's just like, that's not always the way.
It's not.
But sometimes I get what you're saying, but sometimes events like that have to occur to make people look in that direction to say, what drove this group or this person to this end to do this thing? You know what I'm saying?
Like, would it really been so hard? Sam's point, would it really been so hard for the government, instead of repatriating people and put them in their own little concentration camps, things like that? Would it really been so hard for you to say, okay, these people come back, let's get a fund together, let's find a way of putting these people together and some form of semblance of order in which they disappeared? I mean, would it have been that hard? I mean, you still have people's social security numbers, I imagine, at some point, someplace, right? So would it have been that hard to put people back in some semblance of order versus trying to put them off in concentration camps and crazy little segmented off pieces of society and move people out? I mean, it's just, it's like they took the easy way out. Instead of being thinkers and whatnot, they took the easy way out.
Well, I think that was a reflection of modern day and really how societies have been for decades. Mm-hmm. I mean, keep in mind, D, and like we were talking about on the Vietnam episode, my buddy Twan's parents, they don't have social security numbers. They don't have birth dates.
Right.
They don't have any of that, birth certificates, none of that stuff. That,
right.
That's not something that's a part of their society. So, once there is something on the table to lose, that's when people are going to start treating people like commodities and treating people like property and saying, okay, I don't want this and I don't want that and I do want this and I do want that. That's just the way it happens. I think Zemo was correct. Sam was too big-hearted. Karli was long gone by the time they got to her.
Yeah.
And I do think Adrian is correct because she was cast as a young girl. I think that kind of made him approach her softly. Just think if that was a devilish, demonish, brutal, young 19-year-old, just a harsh, like you see in movies, the young drug dealer who is just heartless.
Young Turk.
You think he would have been like, I can talk to him. I can change his mind.
No.
I can make him be right. No.
Right.
Not at all.
Right.
And really, it would have had more poetic resonance and more consistency if after she got shot and Sam grabbed him with holding her, if she'd just been gibberish and just been like, one world, one peace.
Yes.
One
like
world,
defiant
one,
to the end.
one people.
Exactly.
Yes. One world.
Yep.
And then just took a dirt nap, yo. And look, I'm telling you now. Like you said earlier, D, you knew she was gonna die. She killed people in the building. She killed Lamar.
Yeah.
And the minute she called Sam's sister Sarah and threatened his sister and his nephews, he should have gone straight Louisiana black man on that ass and be like, bitch, you gots to go.
Yes.
That's it.
That should have been it.
That joke was super creepy. The way she was just talking like she knew her. Just
right.
Yeah.
I was like on Hannibal Lecter one night. Clarice.
Yeah, yo.
You know where you are, Clarice? Yeah.
Did he sodomize you with your cheap bag and your cheap shoes? You look like a rube.
Quid pro quo.
Hey, did you all catch that was Zemo's butler at the end who blew up the Flag Smashers when they put him in the paddy wagon?
Finally, yo, yeah.
It
finally.
was?
Yeah.
Oh, damn.
Yes.
Yeah.
That was his Alfred.
Yeah.
Sitting in the limo with the remote.
Yeah. And Zemo's like, sit back there. I got your ass.
Yeah. But yo, to your point though, Zemo, when they were having the conversation in that really ritzy lit ass loft that they were in, Zemo told him, he says, would you have taken the super soldier, serum formula if they had offered it to you? And he was like, no. And he said, look, anybody who wants to be superhuman, who seeks that, inevitably will be a supremacist. And then he said to him at a different conversations, either Sam or Bucky said, it didn't happen to Steve, it didn't happen to him. And he said, exactly. Right. Only Steve. He's the only one. He's the exception that actually proves the rule that when you give these fools this power, you see what they do.
Yeah.
Yeah,
look at even freaking what's his name? His actual real name, Red Skull. Red Skull had his own version of it, and it corrupted him. And a lot of things too. It goes to purity of spirit, right? Ultimately, is what we're talking about. I mean, look at Captain America's able to pick up the Thor's hammer too and wield it. So
right.
So go ahead.
Right. I had a couple of nits to pick. A couple of things I was just like, all right, man. I mean, like the whole thing with the power broker. That just seemed like bad writing to me.
Okay.
It was like the power broker this, the power broker that. You see people tagging on the walls, the power broker.
Yeah.
It was like, okay, the people who don't know who she is, nobody ever says, well, who is this power broker?
Right.
Yeah.
Nobody says that.
Right.
Not one time did anybody say, who the fuck is the power broker?
Right.
And the people who know who the power broker is, they never say who she really is. They never say her name. They never reference her. It's just the power. Who talks that way? I was just like, I just thought that was kind of weird. And then the other thing was, like Bucky drinking. He's drinking with Sam on the boat, and he's drinking. I think he was drinking with old girl when they were playing Battleship.
Yeah.
Okay, Bucky has a super soldier serum. Sam and Steve already told us he can't get drunk.
Right.
It affects your metabolism to the point where you can't get drunk. What are you drinking for?
Right.
You can't get drunk. I guess you can have social graces with your boy, but I was just like, okay, you can't get drunk. But the other thing I thought was like on some when Sam was doing the training montage behind his house in Louisiana, doing push-ups, running and flipping and shit.
There you go.
I was like, okay,
there you go.
Yeah, this is out of every Rocky movie all together.
Right.
But the other thing too, like what D was talking about, and it kind of reminded me of that crazy logic of like Zemo showing up in Civil War. He shows up and he gets into this government facility and he's front and center with the main person there that they have under wraps. How did he get in? Same thing as like the Flag Smashers. They're extras at the park.
Mm-hmm.
They just infiltrate the GRC summit.
Mm-hmm.
How'd they get clearance?
Right.
How'd they get access? How'd they get inside?
Well, they're probably there already. That's the thing. What Karli's done successful, like you said, man, is through social media. People that are like-minded. She's cultivated those. What do you call it? When you corrupt somebody, it's a modern term for it. Which I forget.
It's kind of like it's almost like it was a flash mob. Like, okay, everyone who wants to do this Flag Smasher thing, be here at the GRC Summit, 10 o'clock tonight.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Step up to the podium and take your time.
But you're right, D. I didn't mean to cut you off, but I think you probably make a good point. They already worked in government, but they just like the SWAT member, the tactical member, at the end when he puts them in a thing and he says, "One world, one peace."
Mm-hmm.
So she had followers in every level of society, so they probably already were a part of the Flag Smashers, that following, that movement. But you know what I thought was funny? And I thought about Adrian when after John Walker killed the dude, and the blood was on the shield, and they took it from him and broke his arm, and then he went in for his court martial. He had that beret on to the side, looking like Troutman in First Blood, yo.
Hey, I don't care what nobody say. Nothing looks smarter than that beret cocked to the side. That's sharp, yo.
It is.
Yeah, yo.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Oh man, I thought that was so funny, but what were you gonna say? I'm sorry, man.
Go ahead for I'll drop in later on.
The post credits stinger in episode 5 when John Walker was making his Dollar Tree shield. He went back to his high school metal shop, yo. Bing, bing,
right.
And that shit got crunched the hell up ASAP.
Yeah, Karli conditioned his size
on site.
Karli conditioned his size. Karli was like, Negro, please.
Exactly.
But speaking of John Walker, man, when he came out at the end in that U.S. agent costume, I was like, I swooned. I was like, oh. The 90s kid in me was like, oh, yeah. Oh.
Right.
Yeah.
Just let it wash all over me. Just wash all over me.
Yeah.
I was like, that's what I'm talking about. Yeah.
What do you guys think of the Julia Louis-Dreyfus character, man? And that was pretty awesome when she came in there, dude. Like Val.
It was stunt casting for me. Right. She was definitely funny, and she did her thing as Julia Louis-Dreyfus.
Right.
But I didn't see the necessity of it.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And I would have preferred it be somebody else who was a little more sinister and a little less funny.
Right.
But she did add what they wanted her to add to the mix, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Now I had a question about her character. I meant to look it up before we started recording.
Madam Viper.
Is she still the same Countess? Is she the Countess character from Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D.?
Yes.
Like that was always hanging with Nick Fury? Like that's the same character?
That's the same one.
I thought so, and I was like, well, why is she acting like this? Because she was more aristocratic in the actual Nick Fury comics.
Yeah,
Exactly. Not this jokey, quippy type of thing.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
But if it's Nick's character, if she's going to be like having a dalliance with Sam Jackson's character as Nick Fury, then it makes sense that she would like be able to match his level of commitment and funniness to the character.
So maybe so. I always liked that, straight 60s spy, romantic dynamic between Nick Fury and Val. She had the silver hair in the comics, and in the movie they gave her like the purple streak, I guess, which is a little more modern, more of a contemporary take on it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, at first I was like, is that the Val? I was thinking the same thing. Is that supposed to be the Val? But I liked seeing George St. Pierre come back as Batroc. So look, Adrian, the 80s kid in me was just like, oh yeah, Batroc, yo. Batroc.
That John Byrne comic, fighting with rock, sun, oil lighter.
That's
my shit. Batroc Zeliper.
But he was kicking Sam's ass though, bro. I mean,
he was giving it to him. Hell yeah.
He was like, wow. But
he was.
But my shit, yo, I have to say this just recorded on tape. My shit was when Sam throws a shield out the window and it's spinning, and he goes out and catches it at the Falcon. I was like, yes,
yeah.
That was my shit.
Yep. And look, he told Batroc, au revoir.
Right?
Do
this. Leap to this. Yep.
But I do want to shout out, man, the actress who plays is it pronounced Ayo or Ayo? I think it's Ayo, right?
Ayo.
From the Dora Milajie?
Dora Milajie,
yeah. Florence Kasumba, she was great.
Sure.
Oh yeah, excellent. Yeah.
Ooh.
And I didn't realize she was actually in the first Wonder Woman movie. She's on Paradise Island. She's one of the actors.
That makes sense. Okay.
Mm-hmm. And also the actor who played Sam's sister, her name is Adepero Aduye.
Okay.
She was great. She was absolutely great. Totally believable. Felt like somebody's sister.
Yep.
Giving him shit. Frustrated with him. Proud of him, but kind of frustrated with him at the same time. All of that just felt like spot on to me.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And Malcolm Spellman, the guy who created the show and is the showrunner, he worked on Empire for like 3 years.
Okay.
He was one of the writers and the folks on Empire, and he's done some other things too. But the director of I don't know if you guys noticed it. The same director for all 6 episodes.
Okay.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. A lady named Kari Skoglund. She's a Canadian filmmaker. She's done a lot of TV, Punisher, Banshee, Boardwalk Empire, The Walking Dead. But it was odd to me because in television, because it's such a fast medium and because, they have to produce it pretty quickly, they usually hire different directors so that you can, have one thing in production while you're working on something else, So I thought it was really interesting and a bold move for them to have one director to keep the look and the feel and the aesthetic choices consistent. I thought that was pretty dope.
Yeah, totally.
But anyway, I thought the cast was great. I thought overall it was a superbly done show, and not to pit it against WandaVision in any way.
You can go ahead and do so, but go ahead.
Well, I'll say this much. I think it succeeded more for what it was trying to be than WandaVision succeeded for what it was trying to be. But I think WandaVision was a bolder, more creative, a braver endeavor to try to do something different. You know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
Why you giving me the side eye, yo?
Here's what I say to support your point, Wayne, is this. What WandaVision did, WandaVision let you ask you more questions. Wherein Falcon and Winter Soldier solved questions, it solved problems. Like it was more of a typical format to expect from a superhero movie based on Marvel's pedigree. But Wanda shadowed some walls and did some things which you weren't expecting, and yeah, some of those things may have worked for some people, some things didn't work for some people, but it still culminated into a thing which is still ultimately like a good Marvel, outing, I think. But yeah, I mean, arguably, what I saw in Falcon Winter Soldier is more what I expected to see in any other kind of Marvel cinematic, piece of television or movie.
And with that, D, I'll tell you, if you go back and you watch all 6 episodes over the course of a couple of days, it just feels like a movie.
Right.
Yes. Yeah.
It just absolutely feels like a movie. It doesn't feel. It feels like the beats within a Marvel movie just broken up into 6 different parts. That's exactly what it is.
Right.
But before we go, anybody who's listened to the show probably knows that we're all based out of the Atlanta area, and much of this was shot here in Atlanta.
Yeah.
All those streets over there off of Peachtree Center where Dragon Con is held, they shot a bunch of stuff over there. A couple of those loading docks, I know I have delivered packages to those loading docks back in my day when I was a courier. I recognized them absolutely 100%.
Nice.
And the scenes in Madripoor where they're riding through the tunnels that are tagged with graffiti, that's the Krog Street Tunnel over in East Atlanta in Cabbagetown. Yep.
Nice.
Yep. Nice. That's the Krog Street Tunnel. My daughter took my wife arranged for a photographer to take some 16-year-old, her Sweet 16 pictures or whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
And we took some pictures over there. So we drove through the Krog Street Tunnel. In East Atlanta. But so I thought that I recognized it immediately. I was like, okay, that's the A.
Right.
That's definitely the A right there. Pretty
nice, man. Very nice.
Anyway, any final words? I'll let you guys get the final word.
I liked it, man. I mean, I really it planted a seed of still different characters that I want to see to come to fruition. I really want to see an Isaiah Bradley Truth animated series or live action series. I want to see how he came to be the person he is now. Because the end of the last episode paid off in a very nice tribute to what he did to help quote unquote America. And I as much as I hate to say this, I think the strength of what John Walker offered to the show, and what the character, and how well Goldie Hawn's son did in terms of portraying that character, I think he did a masterful job. Because when he came at the last minute and he boned up, became the hero again, I was all in it. When he tried to save the truck that was going over the edge and pull it, I felt like, okay, that's the person you're supposed to be versus the person you became. So I understand. I understand that the jaded soldier that you became based on the things you faced in the wars that you were in. But you went too far. And you deserve to be court-martialed. You deserve to be put into the raft. That's not what's going to happen. Anyway, so I enjoyed it, man. I mean, A+ Marvel once again.
Yeah, I thought that it was fantastic. Like it was very good. Nits aside and all of that, it was just very, very good. And it gave me hope that they really are going to go into the Marvel toy box and bring some of these toys out that you didn't think were going to show up. Like, I never, ever, ever, ever thought in a million years that they would actually have a black Captain America, much less put the suit on to Sam, give him the shield like they did in the comics. Because the comics thing, that lasted for about a year and a half, is almost seemed like it was almost just a fad before the whole Captain America Hydra thing, played itself out and Steve Rogers became Captain America again, for real, in the comics. But here it's like, no, this is it going forward. And I related to you guys, and when we were texting back and forth that, this is kind of similar to how for a generation of kids, John Stewart is the Green Lantern based off of the Justice League cartoon. And it's kind of a neat thought to think that for this generation of kids and young people, Sam Wilson is going to be Captain America, not the Falcon, but Captain America going forward. And I really hope they keep that that vision going of, not just, bringing Captain America, changing the status quo like that cinematically, but doing that for other characters too, within, the storylines that they've established in the comics, but really making it real for, people cinematically. I mean, that's just fantastic. Yeah, absolutely.
That concludes this episode of Sidebar Forever, hosted by Dwight Clark, Swain Hunt, and Adrian Johnson. You can find us online at sidebarforever.com. Any emails or questions can be directed to us at sidebarforever@gmail.com. And also, subscribe to us on social media. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram.